Right, the City of Marine City Commission meeting is called to order on Thursday, August 17th at 7 o'clock p.m. And can we have a moment of silence to send our positive thoughts and prayers to those in our community who need our support? And I'm also asking everybody if they'll please remember the family of former Mayor Bob Beatty, who has recently passed away. And please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, roll call vote, please. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bryce.
Here.
Commissioner Henry.
Here.
Commissioner Hilfrank.
Here.
Commissioner Clausen.
Here.
Commissioner Rorik.
Here.
Commissioner Ross.
Here.
Mayor Van den Bosch.
Here.
City Manager Atkins.
Here.
And on to item 4, approval of the agenda. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Support.
Motion and a support. Any discussion?
Yeah, there is a lot on this agenda. We're gonna be here like 4 hours. It would have been nice to take care of some of the stuff in the last meeting, I think, but that's all the comments I got.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Public comment. Anyone is welcome to address the City Commission. Please state your name. Limit comments to 5 minutes. Commissioners will not respond, but will follow up as necessary.
Madam Mayor, I would prefer to go to the podium and speak as a private citizen, please.
Okay.
All right. So I think most people are aware of the investigation report, the personnel City of Marine City investigation report that has been making its rounds on Facebook. If not, check it out because there is some pretty bad stuff in there. But 3 points I wanted to point out that were in there. And these are part of the factual findings of the investigation.
Mike, as an attorney, I'm going to caution you against discussing that document. You do what you want.
Okay.
You're a private citizen, but
Okay.
I want it
Fair
on the
enough.
record that I've warned you
All right.
that I
So I get extra 15 seconds now? Okay. So
You can
2
have
city employees, one, the former clerk and former DPW head, who is still on the payroll at $50 an hour, went over the commission said by reducing the background check level for our former city manager. The former city clerk, this is point number 2, in cooperation with the former DPW head, kept the decision of a lesser background check from the city manager selection committee and full commission and claimed it was not intentional. But the report concludes that their attempts to cover up the alleged mistake calls their motivation into question. Third point that's worth noting, and it gets worse. The report concludes that the former DPW head even redacted the letter that was used to order the more intense background check. The letter and background check that was agreed to by the commission in order to get a lesser background check done without having to go back to the commission to ratify it. Again, the report does say that the motivations were questionable and not that it was fact that they altered the letter on purpose, but how do you remove a paragraph from a letter and it not be on purpose? The level that the city's employees stoop to, lying and cover-ups in order to cover their butts and discredit another city worker is just despicable. The overall summation of this report, much of that summary can be read below, is that the person who was standing up and speaking out in an attempt to promote transparency and accountability is met with accusations and allegations and attacks to discredit them. Sound familiar? The same stuff is happening to me now, and in my opinion, we all should expect the same covering of tracks through lies by city staff to discredit me, and we have already seen the attacks and lies and half-truths happening throughout the past 2 weeks. These are our tax dollars being wasted on these investigations due to what is, in my opinion, unethical at best behavior and actions by city staff. There is so much stuff in this report that should have gotten many people fired. But what was the result of this report? Nothing. No accountability at all, pensions being collected, and the DPW head is still on city staff making $50 an hour. This is why full transparency in government is important, because without it, with reports like this being hidden and buried from the public eye, nothing changes. And the many, in my opinion, bad actors we have here and in the rest of the county, continue to operate business as usual, status quo. And it's that status quo of the good old boys and gals club that ends up costing all of us in the end. Now, at the last meeting, Bob, you had pointed out to you that you allowed me to vote on the investigation that it's the investigation where I called the police chief, and then the investigation internally was initiated against me. And then we voted to pursue that investigation, and you actually opined and said that I was allowed to vote on that. And
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yeah.
Commissioner Hill Frank.
I don't think I can vote.
Yeah, there's nothing,
Yeah, I can't vote myself, right?
no, I guess.
There's nothing in the charter that says you can't vote.
No.
Good vote, Mike.
so, in section 6.27, rules and organizations of the commission of our city charter, in C, it says, no member of the commission shall vote on any question in which he has a financial interest other than the common public interest or on any question concerning his own conduct. I'm pretty sure that investigation was about my own conduct. So that's a problem. That's a big problem.
If you knew that, you shouldn't have voted.
That's all right. I was just taking the attorney's advice. The other thing that I got here is just how memos are written to cover things up in this town. In my opinion, Mr. Davis was complicit in the cover-ups that were involved in this investigation, as evidenced by the recording made from the September 21 meeting that I'm going to play now.
I don't know who knew at that time that the background investigation was inadequate. I don't know who didn't know at that time whether the background was inadequate. The point is you have to fix these things, and the fix here was to get it right. So that's the background. And I gave you support in this memorandum for all of those issues.
So that to me sounds like you are complicit in these matters, in my opinion. And you're not writing memos according to the law, but according to the wills and wishes of the
Mr.
city
Hill
manager
Frank,
or
your 5
mayor
minutes is
such.
up.
I was interrupted. Or mayor such as the case tonight with this censure resolution against me.
Mr. Hill Frank, your time is up.
All right, I'll continue it with my privilege. I feel like that wasn't even 5 minutes, but that's okay. I got enough of it out.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak for public comment? Squires?
Mr. Hill Frank, I'm going to say something here. First of all, I should say Rosalie Squires, 211 Michigan. You just got up here like a trailblazer with a volcanic, emotional, angry, arrogant performance. But this is what I have a problem with. You're wearing your emotions on your sleeve, and when you wear your emotions on your sleeve, they're your engine. Emotions don't make a good engine. They make a way better caboose. And that is not a leadership quality to come up here and perform in such an angry manner.
I wasn't angry.
Well, it certainly comes off that way. It certainly was extremely emotional, was very, very volcanic, and your arrogance is incredible. Incredible. And you know what arrogance means? It means when you always think you're right. And you know what, sir? The way you're performing, I have a definite feeling that you're probably not right. I've gone to tons of meetings, tons, and I've never seen anything quite like this. But this is what concerns me, is I have a feeling the city's going to end up sued, because anytime I've seen anything like that, that's what happens. But I think you better take some lessons and learn about our charter because you're on some dangerous ground here. Thank you very much. Just a second, I still got a few minutes. I'm going to say that again. Emotions make a very good caboose, but make a very poor engine.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address the board? Okay, nobody else. We'll move on to approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion to approve the city commission meeting minutes of August 3rd, 2023?
So moved. Support.
Motion support. Any discussion? All in favor?
Wait,
Oh.
sorry. Did nobody want to add the fact that we entered open session with a very loud recording of what I presume to be the U.S. Constitution being played? That was mentioned nowhere.
It was in the closed session.
We came into open session. The whole end where I made my motion and everything was exceedingly difficult because there's very loud recording being played.
During the closed session.
No, they're in the open session.
So what are we talking about right now? The open session or the closed session?
The open session, when we came back into open session.
But the minutes that we're discussing right now, what are we talking about?
The open session minutes.
Open session minutes after the closed session.
So we're gonna go against what was recorded for the public.
What was recorded for the public stopped at the closed session and then did not resume.
I'm just saying, everything's on tape already.
No, not everything's on tape. The motion is here. The motion is here. Nobody will see all these things that are in there after the closed session, but
Aren't we addressing that in censure anyways?
No, what he's
No,
trying to say
correct the
is that we
minutes.
came back into open session and it was still blaring. That's what he's trying to point out.
At 9:48, we came into open session, but he wanted to make sure it was indicated in the minutes that when we came into open session, the recording was still playing,
correct.
quite loud. That's why we were trying to finish conducting business, if that's trying to say.
Would that be satisfactory for everyone
As I
to
told
enter
most
into
on
the
this
minute?
board, when this turns into attack on me, that meeting would not continue.
So-
That's what happened.
I will amend my motion to approve the open session meeting minutes with the addition of the note that Commissioner Ross indicated regarding the loud recital of the Constitution being played during that segment of the open session meeting.
I'll still support that.
All right, motion and a support on the amended motion. Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. And then we will move on to, we have to approve the city commission closed session meeting minutes of August 3rd, 2023.
I make a motion, we approve the commission closed session meeting minutes of August 3rd, 2023.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. On the item 7, a consent agenda, we have the Marine City Area Fire Authority Run Report, and item B, the departmental activity monthly reports.
Make a motion that we approve the consent agenda items A and B.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank?
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Rohr?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, and items removed from the consent agenda, we have none. And moving on to financial business, number 9, we have expenditures including payroll in the amount of $723,146.95. Can I have a motion to approve the expenditures including payroll in that amount of $723,146.95?
I'll make a motion to approve the expenditures, including payroll, for $723,146.95.
Support.
Okay, the motion and a support. Any discussion?
Just for the benefit of the public, this one being a little bit higher this time, as taxes are collected and then due to different entities such as East China School District, to the state, to the county, et cetera, this one included all of that. So that's why it might appear a little bit higher than normal.
Hey, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank.
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, and 9B, the preliminary financial statements. And can I have a motion to receive and file the preliminary financial statements?
So,
Go ahead.
so moved.
Support.
Okay, motion and a support. Any discussion?
Scott, may I make a request that we get a decoder key for the accounts?
Yeah, we can put together a little cheat sheet of
Yeah.
primary accounts.
Yep, it just makes it easier. We know where the general fund that it came from, obviously, but it's just nicer to have a little bit more on the line items. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It carries. The unfinished business, 10A, rescheduling of the special meeting that I had requested for August 9th. I did cancel that meeting the following Monday, and I got some supplemental information that was sent to all the commissioners from the attorney that we received on Wednesday. So I wanted to get that rescheduled, but I wanted the commission's opinion if you would want to do that in a regular meeting as an agenda item, or tack it on as a workshop, or do a special meeting. And that would,
I just have a question. You said you received supplemental material from the attorney?
we all received it last Wednesday
Right.
in our emails,
I
yeah.
understand. So how is that relevant to rescheduling the meeting?
Well, if everybody else still wants to talk about it, if it's still important, then we can reschedule
Well,
it.
no, I'm asking specifically what from the attorney made it relevant to reschedule the meeting?
I requested to cancel and reschedule the meeting because I wanted to get some additional information. That is my answer. I'm not playing your game.
I'm not playing a game, just
Okay.
asking a question.
So,
Let's try to stay professional.
Excuse me, how long do you think it'll take, you know? So we
whenever you
know
guys
whether
want to do
it's a
it.
workshop or a, you know, during the meeting when it might be already long.
Yeah, I would think that it probably shouldn't take no more than an hour or so. I mean, to do it on a special. It could extend a regular meeting a little bit, but.
Okay. Do you have a date in mind?
No, if we want to do it on a special, we could come up with a date. If we wanted just to tack it on, maybe one of the September meetings, we could do that.
Okay.
I know the information that we received was pretty thorough,
Mm-hmm.
so it might not take as long as you think, I guess.
All right. Just so we
I
can
think
have
it'd be
some
more
discussion.
of questions. It's
Yeah.
more of just a review and some questions and things.
Okay,
Just want to do it, put it on a regular meeting?
yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Unless somebody has an objection.
Ahead of or behind?
Hmm?
Like workshop, like we had done before at 6, or starting as soon as the meeting concludes? I'm asking that.
Oh, me?
Or,
You know, if it's not gonna take an hour, I guess we could maybe schedule it on a regular meeting where there's not a lot on the agenda, so it wouldn't be 3 or 4 hours instead. That might be a good idea.
Well, what we can do is look at what would be coming up on those 2 meetings in September,
And then
what's due, and then pick it on for the like.
decide. Yeah,
If
that
that
sounds good.
Okay.
I just have one more comment. For the public's benefit, the real reason why that was rescheduled was because the city attorney wrote initial opinion or memo dealing with commissioners' ability to inquire with department heads, and that memo turned out to not be as strong as he expected, and he then had to revise that memo again to serve its purpose.
No, it wasn't, but,
Yeah.
okay. All right, then moving on to item 11, new business, A, discussion items. the vacant building ordinance discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Recently, the commission has enacted a moratorium in regards to the ordinance. As I mentioned to the commissioners, there have been several concerns that have been raised primarily by businesses in the community or property owners about potential conflicts or gray areas in the existing ordinance and also in our business license ordinance. So we did provide in the packet a copy of the current ordinance as it stands today, even though it's under a moratorium, for some thoughts for the commission to look at, try to make some notes of thoughts and ideas or concerns that you have. Many of you have shared those concerns with me, and again, other businesses have. And I've been working to compile from other communities similar ordinances. I don't expect that we're going to have a lot of discussion tonight. This is kind of one of, I'm sure, many topics dealing with this ordinance, but I at least wanted to have some initial discussion. What I've been able to locate thus far is looking at communities. Several communities have very similar ordinances regulating vacant buildings. Largely, they are looking at issues such as occupancy, building maintenance, public safety, economic development, but they all vary, although they have commonalities, registrations, registration fees, inspections, maintenance, securing of structures, reoccupancy, notification of emergency contacts or owners, penalties for noncompliance. Those are pretty standard, but I do think that we have some gray areas, and again, several of you have put me in contact with business owners, or business owners have stopped in and expressed their concerns. I think that those are pieces we need to iron out, but at least getting you a copy of the ordinance again for a refresher to look at what we have, and asking that if you can start to prepare a short list of maybe concerns that you have or others that have been shared with you, we can start to pick through and address the areas. Our end result could be as simple as just an amendment to the ordinance. It could be beyond that of repealing the ordinance, maybe also addressing certain provisions in the building license, but to be able to get your thoughts together of what concerns you have. And then what I'd like to also do is I have about 10 other municipal ordinances from other communities of all different sizes that I'd be more than happy to scan and share with you. There's just a lot of information that's not able to be devoured in one evening for you to look at and see, again, the commonalities or maybe some interesting pieces that may be in another ordinance that we should have, or things that we have that, again, should be extracted. So if that's an acceptable approach, I'd like to be able to get those scanned out and get them to you, and then we can come back and incrementally revisit this. I think we put a 6-month window in, but really be able to keep it moving and have some more discussion again in an upcoming meeting next month, and be able to fine tune the pieces. It could be very simple fixes, or it may be a little more complex.
I like that idea. Yeah, definitely send out the additional information when you can. Thank you.
My question is, some of this I think is covered under our dangerous buildings and some of that stuff. So is that another thing we could also look at, is maybe some of this could be built into that instead of?
I believe that would be an easy fix, because it does get a little clunky and complicated. There are references to other ordinances we have, or the International Property Maintenance Code, and those are things that, again, I think working with Structure, with Mr. Davis, we can refer back or reference those other ordinances instead of recitating the whole thing again. And we've kind of done that. So some cleanup in addition, but this was I guess the first volley of getting this out there. So it's appropriate to make those modifications and consider where the commission wishes to go in the future.
Can I get an explanation about the penalties? Like what penalties there are in this currently, and when those take place?
Yeah, so, I mean, essentially right now, there is a penalty provision put in for folks that don't conform, meaning if they don't register, pay their registration fee. We are not, of course, right now leveling any penalties on this, because we are in the moratorium period, and we're coming up actually in the first cycle. So we haven't been into the penalty phase. The only portion that's really been done to this point is early on, prior to the moratorium, notices out saying you're in violation of the ordinance. Here's the ordinance, here are the fees, this is what you need to do to comply with the ordinance. But again, beyond that, there's been no other penalty portions that have been enacted yet on this.
I'm specifically asking to what's on this paper and an explanation about when these penalties take place.
Mr. Davis, I don't know if that's something, again, that you would like to address more. I mean, again, they're generally taking place for non-compliance, so again, after all the notifications and warnings, there could be a penalty enacted. We haven't gotten to that point yet.
Right. So that, I mean, I need an explanation before I can tell you my concern, because I'm not fully sure I understand how the penalties work.
I'll get you something in writing on your question, Commissioner Elfring.
Okay, so just reading these penalties here. A violation of the subchapter is a misdemeanor offense subjecting the violator to the penalties set forth in 10.99. B, each day that an owner of a vacant or abandoned structure fails to comply with the requirements of this subchapter shall constitute a separate offense. So somebody could rack up 5 misdemeanors in 5 days?
99.
That's a little extreme if my understanding of that section is appropriate. Is that correct, Mr. Davis?
I'll get you a written opinion on your question, Mr. Elfring.
Well, I'm more asking for an
I don't
answer
have an
for the
opinion-
public.
I don't have an opinion this evening on your question.
You don't have an opinion?
I don't have an opinion. I will put it in a memorandum for you.
Well, this is a public meeting for the public, so they know what's
Okay,
happening
so
publicly.
right now, members of the public, the penalty provision is at 158.165. The language that is in there was approved by this commission and adopted into this ordinance. It's fairly standard misdemeanor language for violations of an ordinance. Under your ordinance scheme, you generally want to have the offense be cumulative over days because people could really just consider it a business expense and come in and pay the fine and continue with the behavior. So you always want to reserve the right to have each offense accumulating on a daily basis. That's a general explanation of how the penalty provisions work. I'll get Mr. Commissioner Helfring an opinion on this penalty provision. But if you want to read it, it was adopted after public hearing and by a vote of this commission at section 158.165.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate that this was ever written into here in the first place. I think it's criminal to insert that language of a misdemeanor to the residents of Marine City. I mean, this is not something that should be criminal. This is just a civil issue, in my opinion. And with the recent advances within the state and realizing that piling misdemeanors on people kind of just like drags everybody back, it makes it harder to get jobs. It just makes things so much harder, and they're doing clean slate now to try to wipe some of that off. And I think we should probably follow that path that the state is going and take this misdemeanor offense off of here because it's just really, really unnecessary. I mean, fines, sure. Escalating fines, sure. But a criminal offense, it seems very, very extreme, and I'm pretty disappointed in the previous commission for passing this.
Okay, anything else?
I have a question. My concern is that, how is this gonna affect, people buying buildings in town and businesses and stuff? Is there any, I don't know, statistics from, other places that have this of how it affects, business in the town? Because I've heard some people say, well, I don't wanna buy a building there if my parts don't come in for 6 months from China or wherever they're being shipped from, and so I'm gonna get, my building is vacant, and so maybe if we're gonna keep it, maybe there should be some provisions for that people have, I had it rented out and they were killed in a car accident or something, so now what am I gonna do? I gotta find somebody else again, so we shouldn't penalize them for things beyond their control, if we're even gonna keep it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, in the original drafting, that was definitely what we were out to do, is not penalize people for some sort of, thing that was beyond their control, without
Yeah.
question. The only issue I was made aware of by a business owner is that they were actually attempting to apply for a business license and told that they were on some sort of list of non-compliant buildings. And I had been in, maybe not building, but businesses, and I had been in there, recently enough to know that they were actually a functioning business and things like that. So for that reason, I'm absolutely willing to revisit it and had voted to revisit it in a year anyway. for that reason, to remove any confusion
Right.
related to that.
Yeah, I think there's a little too much confusion in the ordinance.
Yeah, clearly,
Yeah.
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 Isn't the
Right.
enforcement this in the building department? And you already have an ordinance in the building department of 2015 maintenance code that has all this stuff in it. So if it's in that department, why are we doing a different ordinance when we already got a state law in 2015 maintenance code?
Yeah, so maybe it's already in a couple of ordinances, and we should review that.
And again, one of the pieces that if we do need to put some type of reference or modification, the building license, or the business license portion may be the other piece that we need to fix.
yeah.
That again, if all of the items here are referenced in other building codes or the property maintenance code, then maybe the provision needs to be amended in the business license, again, for those that do not conform to property maintenance code, business license code, or building maintenance codes, that they don't get a business license, or those extenuating circumstances. I think Commissioner Ross, the one that you and I had talked about, we have seasonal businesses. And maybe that's a two-part here, that there's other modifications that'll need to take place in regards to business licenses too.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, moving on to 11B in action items. The amended open in-tax ordinance, first reading.
Make a motion, we approve ordinance number 23-003, the amended open in-tax ordinance for first reading.
Support.
Okay, motion and a support and discussion.
This is just an amendment to make our open in-tax ordinance comply with the new social district, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the primary reason for this, is because of the social district now being enacted.
So it doesn't negate the playground, parking area, or public facility part of it? Okay,
Doesn't change any of the other portions.
portions of it, okay.
And again, it still allows that exemption for city-approved variances for
Events.
organizations and things, so.
Is there more, so, once this is approved, that's it?
Yeah, we had to clarify the open in tax for the police chief's enforcement position to make sure that there's a carve-out for the social district that you've enacted.
Okay, so then once this is all done, then it's
Then we're
a
good.
go?
Right.
Okay, all right,
Yeah, when you say that's it, you mean implemented,
yes,
right?
correct.
So that is correct? I'm looking for the same clarification.
Yes.
Like,
So-
whatever,
so you-
tonight at
This is a
7:33, you know?
This is a companion competing ordinance. If
Yeah.
you don't make this change, then it's inconsistent with our social.
Right,
Right.
right.
And
Got it.
do we have any update on the signs?
No, a matter of fact, I think that right now, we were looking at waiting on the Liquor Control Commission approvals, so we know, again, the numbers of signage in the areas, but we do have designs and drafts based on what the commission looked at before, and our DPW superintendent has been in contact. The sign company is ready to go as soon as we give the nod on numbers, and
So we still have to wait for Michigan to approve?
yeah, I think we just, because there was a tag portion that we wanted to be able to mark the authorized social district participants as well, so to make one order all at one time.
So is that when it takes effect? I mean, I think your question, right? No, I'm being
No,
serious.
because we're waiting for
Right?
the state, right?
Yeah, right now, social district is in place here. Liquor Control Commission hasn't given the individual nods to the specific businesses. And once the first one comes in, then the social district is,
Starts.
and the signage and.
Signage
all
is
those
required
pieces.
when you get one
Right.
person.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to confirm.
Yeah.
So it's not. The answer is no. When we vote this, bars cannot immediately sell people drinks. It's not until
No, we're
the-
still
right.
waiting, we're still
Or-
waiting.
Okay.
But you can't put the chief in a position where he has competing ordinance schemes.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
so
we knew
This
that.
is part of what we have to approve.
And do we need to sunset or, negate the other one? That one took care of itself, right? Because
We,
it was
we
a-
just, we took the existing open in tax ordinance and just amended it.
Got it.
And it's a first reading on that amendment.
So upon your second reading, it essentially
on second reading, at your next meeting, it would become effective.
So then we're doing roll call vote just to approve the first reading.
Yes.
Okay. Nothing else? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hillfrank,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
No.
Commissioner Berg,
No.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
No. Passes.
Okay, on to 11C, the Municipal Marina Regulation Ordinance, first reading.
I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance 23-004, an ordinance of the City of Marine City, St. Clair County, Michigan, to establish a municipal marina regulations, title XV Charter 150, Section 8, entitled Municipal Marina Regulations.
Support.
Man,
The motion and the
Chap-
support, and discussion.
Madam Mayor, can I provide just some clarification?
Absolutely.
Just so the commission is aware, we actually only had one reference in regards to marina regulations, especially short-term docking. It was in our zoning ordinance. So this is actually a standalone provision that includes, as you can see, extended items that you want to have to regulate the marina, again, for, people not able to undertake painting and maintenance and those type of things. So it's pretty standard based on other communities and just put into a format for adoption as a general ordinance for us.
Yeah, that's the only question I had really was the environmental one. I mean, there shouldn't be any boats stored on the property. That's not allowed. There shouldn't be bottom washing, can't be, well, fueling is probably a good thing, yeah, painting, but yeah. It just seemed a little boilerplate, but it's fine. I mean, but it shouldn't even, winterization chemicals shouldn't be used there and things like that, so.
I believe that there's no overnight, right? Dockage there.
Right.
Correct.
That's
So-
covered earlier in it, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, number one.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have a few things.
Absolutely.
All right, on the second page, second paragraph, H, the last sentence, owners are responsible for clean up their pets. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm sure there's a word missing or something.
Yeah.
Okay,
The word of.
yeah. And K, I don't think you need the S on watercrafts. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either, but maybe it is grammatically correct. Are we gonna have cameras?
So we are gathering pricing and information for cameras at parks and the marina.
Okay.
And hoping that would be included then in a marina development project.
Yeah, that was just another question. Okay, and R, prohibitions set forth due to mechanical or weather things. Is there a limit? I know if you abandon your car on the freeway or something, you usually have 48 hours or something to move it, but there's no provision in here for that. And are they required to notify somebody that, hey, my boat is here, I had to pull in because the engine died, and, who gets that? Maybe we should put something in there, who gets notified. But I think there should be a 48, 72 hour. Yeah, because otherwise, they could say, it's, 2 weeks, my motor's still not working, so maybe a time limit or something.
To contact the harbor master on that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, if we get a report on it, we'll run the MC numbers and we'll make notification. If the boat is legally registered, we'll make notification.
Thank you, Constable.
Yeah, I mean, it's a legitimate thing that weather or whatever does it, but there should be a limit to it.
72 hours, sound good to everyone?
Yeah, I
I
think,
mean, if that jives with other ordinances, I guess,
Yeah.
yeah.
it doesn't sound unreasonable, let's put it that way.
yeah.
And I don't know if there would be a penalty or, what has to be done. Maybe we could come up with something. They'd have to move it or, something. All right, and on the third page, there is F, the sanding, if we don't allow fueling and bottom washing and painting, why are we allowing sanding even if they have a vacuum sander that sucks out the residue? It doesn't seem like a logical thing to have in there. And I would assume they'd make noise, so if you're fishing there and somebody's running a sander, not the best thing. So I'm not sure why we're allowing sanding.
Yeah, we don't even allow contractors too, so
We
that
could
would,
probably just strike the remaining portion after the first sentence, there be no sanding work of any sort carried out by individual boat owners, period.
yeah, stop.
Yeah,
And then
just
remove
stop
the
there.
rest. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that was all my little things I found. But, yeah, it's nice to have overall, rules and regulations. And then those are gonna be posted at the docks?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right,
Actually, for sanding, maybe you could leave or their contractors, because in painting, you have or their contractors.
yeah.
Okay.
That's good.
And in winterization chemicals, you have contractors.
For their contract.
Consistency, yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least we've got that.
Yeah, you good?
Okay. Anything else? All right, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Ross,
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson,
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick,
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, on to item 11D, engaging outside legal counsel Collins Ihorn to review and issue a legal opinion on the privileged status of the independent investigation report recommended by City HR Attorney Courtney Nichols with respect to the Megan Pierce employment issues. And can I have a motion to engage the outside legal counsel Collins and Ihorn to review and issue legal opinion on the privileged status of independent investigation report as recommended by the City HR Attorney Courtney Nichols with respect to the Megan Pierce employment issues?
I'll make a motion that we, forgive me here, engage with outside legal counsel Collins Einhorn to review and issue a legal opinion on the privileged status of the independent investigation report recommended by the city HR attorney Courtney Nichols with respect to the Megan Pierce employment issues. I'd also like to add a conditional element to that, that if the outside legal counsel finds that the report is indeed privileged, that we immediately begin an investigation into the spread of that report, how far it has spread, what are the origins of it, where did it come from, how did it escape the city.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. Any discussion?
Yes, I do. I'm a little concerned that engaging another retained attorney on this could be a big waste of taxpayer money. One reason being the American Bar Association has opined on this very issue on June 14th, 2018, which I can pass out to you all now. One for you. One for you. The relevant portions are highlighted. Just go ahead and pass it all the way down, Brian. No, all three. All three. Just keep passing them down because they're, sorry, I need to invest in a stapler. Even got
You
one
have
for
one?
you, Bob.
He's got one. Need one for,
You'll need one, the clerk will need one for the record.
So, should have had 7 total there. One for Bob. We can go to the clerk, that's fine. So as you can see from this opinion in front of you, from the American Bar Association for the public, obviously that's the it's the association that creates the rules and procedures for attorneys. And their Standing Committee on Ethics and Professional Responsibility sought a workable definition to the generally known exception. Now, what is the generally known exception? The generally known exception is when a piece of privileged information becomes generally known to the public, that piece of information is no longer covered by attorney-client privilege. As Rule 1.9 of the American Bar Association Rules and Procedure here says, a lawyer who has formerly represented a client in a matter whose present or former firm has formerly represented a client in a matter shall not thereafter use information relating to the representation to the disadvantage of the former client except as these rules would permit or require with respect to a client or when the information has become generally known. So what you have in front of you is a request or an expansion of the definition of what is generally known actually mean. Okay? So if we read on here, this opinion sets forth guidelines that many courts will likely adopt in future cases. Say ABA section of litigation leaders, the opinion concludes that the community will generally know the client information when the public in a certain geographic area widely recognizes the information. I would say that on Facebook, that would be the geographic geographic location of these people. The ABA committee acknowledged that information made widely available through the internet or social media could qualify as meeting the generally known exception. Reading a little bit further down, the ABA committee named several states who adopted the position that mere public availability of information was not enough. For the public to generally know the information, it must be more widely known and popular, which this particular investigation is widely known and has been popular amongst Facebook groups of 10,000, 16,000, etc. The ABA committee concluded information is generally known within the meaning of Model Rule 1.9C1 under two circumstances. First, it is widely recognized by a member of the public in the relevant geographic area. Going on, which I already mentioned earlier. The committee noted the difference between using generally known information, which a lawyer may, and using confidential client information, which a lawyer may not. The information must previously have been revealed by some source other than the attorney, added the ABA committee. So this particular source was not the attorney. Going further, states will likely adopt the opinion widely predicts Michael R. Lyde, co-chair of the section's Trial Evidence Committee. In fact, some jurisdictions already follow a similar standard, he adds. The ABA committee acknowledged that social media may play a role in whether information is generally known. So this has already been opined that things on social media, attorney-client privilege information on social media can and does fit the generally known exception. And I truly, truly think that this is going to be a waste of taxpayer money, especially considering that in the past, attorneys retained by the city have collaborated as evidence in city emails to sweep things like the personnel investigation report under the rug that was done in 2021. And really don't have, and these attorneys really don't have the people's who pay those attorneys' wages best interest in mind. So I think it'd just be a travesty to spend more of taxpayers' money to further hide things and try to go against a opinion that's already been made by the American Bar Association.
All right.
Well, I was in that discussion there with that document, and it was not to be released. I've asked the board at least twice here to release it, and it became...
So did I.
It's because it was privileged, and everybody else honored that, as far as I know. There might have been some stuff that was done on behalf of the other people that were involved, but there wasn't anybody here that I know of that released it. So, but we held our grounds and did not release it. So I'd like to know who released it. So if it takes an attorney to do it and investigate it, then I'm for it.
So is this motion for, so he amended what was actually on the agenda then? Because I thought we were just talking about retaining an attorney, and now this is gonna be an investigation as well
Maybe.
by this outside attorney. Does anybody know how much the previous investigation costs the taxpayers? Lisa, I think you had a quote at one point.
I'm thinking it was 34,000 or something.
$34,000. So $34,000 is possibly what we're talking about getting into here over something that has already been opined by the ABA as being generally known.
Commissioners, I'll speak on the issue, not in reaction to this ABA issue, because I don't think it applies, but it's interesting.
Can you explain that? Why don't you think it applies?
I'll get you a written opinion on that, Mike.
Well, it's for the public.
I'll get you a written opinion, and you can
So every
post
question-
my written opinion like you do everything else.
Every question that I'm going to ask now at this table is not
Yes.
going to be answered by you?
Everything you ask will be in writing.
So
So
you're not
members of the
gonna-
members of the
You're going to
public,
treat me differently than anybody else on this board?
no,
All right.
No?
members of the public, when there was a pre-investigation on claims made by a former employee, your HR lawyer from Plunkett Cooney came to this commission and said, we believe we should do a confidential investigation before we manage that claim. And this board voted to have a confidential report prepared. And it was presented to the commissioners as a privileged document from their then lawyer, Courtney Nichols from Plunkett Cooney. The purpose of what we're doing now is there's been allegations that it's no longer privileged, as you've just heard from Commissioner Helfrich. I don't think that's true, and I don't think it's legally true, and I think what we're going to do is we're asking for permission to go to Brian Einhorn of Collins Einhorn, who's the state leading expert on what is and when is a document privileged with respect to municipal governments, and get an opinion as to the status of this document, as to whether it is privileged, or if the privilege was waived by its dissemination into the public domain, as asserted by Commissioner Helfrich. What Commissioner Bryson has said is, if the lawyer determines that the wrongful dissemination of a privileged document does not destroy the privilege itself, that only the commission can waive by a vote that privilege, Mr. Bryson has said, let's move forward with an investigation then as to how it got released. This lawyer is not being retained for that investigation. That investigation will likely be done by the state police, who will investigate the disclosure of documents from a closed session and from a confidential privileged document. And the state police will interview people to see how it got on Facebook. And then the public will know how it got on Facebook. And that's the purpose. The sole purpose of engaging this expert is to get an opinion as to the privileged continued status of that report, or whether the privilege has somehow been waived. Thank you.
Now, that
I'm not going
waiving
to entertain questions.
of the privilege, am I being accused of waiving that privilege?
I didn't say that. Did you?
I'm just asking a question.
I didn't say that.
Because according to internal emails, I wasn't even privy to that information because I was not part of the commission that made it.
You can answer how it
Right.
got on, you can answer how it got on Facebook during the investigation.
Well, anonymous poster posted it.
Okay,
That's how it got on Facebook,
okay. We have a motion.
which we're discussing, right? So just reading back this minutes that I have here from September 27th, 2021 special meeting, a motion by Commissioner Ross. I'm wondering if it was directed by Bob again, but it says here,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
I
Could you say
further
that
move
louder?
that the city engage Attorney Susan Heiser to immediately conduct an investigation of the claims made in the September 20th, 2021 complaint and provide this, that's a key word right there, this city commission with an attorney-client communication on the results. So instead of using the word the city commission, it was purposely written in the motion, this, in order to, in my opinion, hide information from future commissions and from really the public. Because, I mean, just imagine if there was presidential or governor administrations that weren't privy to information of the previous administrations and what a mess that would be, right? So writing a motion like this, it just really does a disservice to the people of the community, in my opinion.
I don't know what, you're saying that I write Brian Ross's motions. Mr. Ross, would you care to comment on that?
I don't know what to say, honestly.
I mean, you've done it before, is all I'm saying.
No, I haven't.
It was just brought up at the last meeting that you had. Remember, Brian, pull your pen out? You don't remember that? It was just the last meeting there, Mr. Davis.
I assisted him during the course of this motion.
By telling him to pull a pen out and tell him word for word what to write.
I've got a little hand, like a hand hole in my back that Bob just talks through, so.
Yeah.
I apologize for that public, you know.
So anyways, to answer your question, Commissioner Helfrich, the purpose of the opinion letter is to answer the questions you're asking. We want a lawyer who specializes just on privileged communications with municipalities to give us an opinion as to A, was the document privileged when it was prepared? B, was it communicated to a client and remained privileged? C, has that privilege been waived? And D, does the wrongful dissemination of that information break the privilege? Those are the questions we want to ask.
What does wrongful dissemination mean?
In other words, if you have a document that the privilege is held by the commission as a whole, and somehow that document gets out to the public, but the commission did not waive the privilege, that's the question.
So, if this commission is not the client in the first place, how would we ever waive it?
Mike, that is the question we're going to ask the lawyer, because it was a prior commission, is what you're saying.
But that's really not what the questions that are going to be asked are going to be. I mean, so it's your opinion that this attorney's opinion will override the rules and procedures of the American Bar Association?
The American Bar
These are not
Association
rules and procedures, but,
is not the
They're not?
law, Mike. I mean, it's
Rule
interesting reading.
1.6.
It's interesting reading, but it's not the law.
Rule 1.9C1.
Okay, is there any other new discussion? Okay, roll call vote, please.
Actually, I do have one more thing to say. I have one more thing written here by Stephen D. Ginsburg, and anybody that pays attention to national politics will know that last name. And Ruth Bader Ginsburg was an amazing Supreme Court justice. And his question that he wrote up in this blog was the privilege waived? Either voluntary or inadvertent disclosure to outside or non-covered recipients, professional advisors outside the privilege, and experts and consultants can result in waiver as a matter of law.
Could be right, Mike.
So if this documentation is already out there, why are we wasting money to get another opinion on it when all these rules that I've just cited are out there? Rule 1.6, Rule 1.9, Rule 1.9C1. They're already out there.
Because for my personal opinion, I'd prefer to have someone with a law degree who's passed the bar advise me.
These are straight off the ABA website.
But you
Straight
haven't,
off.
so.
These are rules straight off
Is it
the website,
Michigan law?
right?
yeah.
Okay, I want to
So
roll call
for the
vote.
benefit of the
Oh,
public,
wait.
I find it a great idea to do this, to get this opinion of outside legal counsel, especially if they're the foremost in the state, because I, like Bill, was involved in those proceedings, and it was made absolutely clear that it was not to be released. And it was made absolutely clear that if it were, the city could be in serious legal trouble.
Wow.
So if you want to talk about spending money, hey, why not? That could get us in serious trouble. That could spend us some serious money. So I am all for, again, securing the legal counsel of Collins Einhorn.
For the public's benefit, what was the reasons that it was clear not to be released?
That was covered in closed session, Mike, which you were not privy to, and I will not divulge.
More secrecy.
Okay, let's do, roll call, please.
Commissioner Warwick.
Yes.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank.
Absolutely not.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. On to 11E. The Community and Economic Development Board resignation of Commissioner Hillfrank. Can I have a motion to accept the resignation of Commissioner Hillfrank from the Community and Economic Development Board?
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Commissioner Hillfrank from the Economic Development Board.
Support?
Okay. Motion and support.
Just for the public's benefit, I simply do not have the time or energy to continue on this board. I will be starting back to school, substitute teaching in the fall, so it's just, I got too much on my plate.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. The Community and Economic Development Board appointment.
Do you want to take it?
I'm willing to go on the board.
I'll make a motion to make Jennifer Vandembosch as the new CED board member.
Second.
Support.
Okay, motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Ross.
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch.
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick.
Yes.
Commissioner Hillfrank.
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, item 11G, the censure resolution, Resolution 22, 2023, to censure the August 3rd conduct of elected Commissioner Michael Hillfrank. And just to make clear, I'm the one that prepared the resolution based on the August 3rd meeting. And I would move that the City Commission adopt the resolution.
I'll make a motion, we adopt resolution number 022-2023, the censure of the August 3rd, 2023 conduct of elected Commissioner Michael Hillfrank.
Was that a second? I think the mayor made the motion.
Oh, second. I apologize.
No, that's okay. Okay, the motion and the support and discussion.
Just for the public's benefit, this censure resolution, which is it is what it is. But as far as what's inside of it and the loud music that I played, that loud music was the Star-Spangled Banner, followed by, yes, a reading of the Constitution, because I felt there was a lot of people at this table that needed a reminder of what the Constitution means and how important free speech is, and that there really wasn't a lot of honesty as far as what that closed session performance evaluation of our city manager was actually going to be, which turned into an attack on me. So I had to do what I could while I had the floor to stop that attack.
Any other discussion? Rita?
I have something. OSHA states in their occupational noise exposure overview that noise may be a problem in your workplace if you have to shout to be heard by a coworker an arm's length away. Despite repeated shouted requests, Commissioner Hillfrank refused to turn off the extremely loud, high-pitched music, and we just heard what it was. It was immediately painful to me, and I had to leave the room. By the time I got home that evening, I had an earache and an awful headache that persisted for the next 3 days. The stunt pulled off by Commissioner Hilfrink was unprofessional, unnecessary, and was dangerous to the hearing of commissioners and city employees. And that, remember that freedom of speech does not mean freedom of consequences. That's all I have to say.
Fair enough. And Rita, I do apologize if there was any injury that took place. For the public, this was played on a Bluetooth speaker that was about this big, which obviously only goes so loud. And it was never my intention for any of that to happen. It was simply my intention to get the meeting adjourned and stop the shaming and attacks on me. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Bryson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hendrick?
Yes.
Commissioner Hilfrink?
No.
Commissioner Clausen?
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke?
Yes.
Commissioner Ross?
Yes.
Mayor Vandebosch?
Yes.
Motion carried.
And item 11H, authorization to solicit requests for qualifications and cost proposals. For 1, the general engineering services, 2, the Marina master plan and development, and 3, information technology services.
Mayor and Commissioners, this action doesn't necessarily need a vote. However, I just wanted to present it to you and make sure that there were no concerns on the direction going forward to at least solicit the qualifications and proposals for these 3 specific items. Upon the solicitation of these, there will be a review, perhaps a committee set up with discussion of the commission, and then a recommendation made that would be voted on. But I think that's very important. As many of you are aware, we have several engineering firms that we've used. Sometimes that gets a little murky in the waters. It's not always the best cost control, so being able to tie these together would be a benefit for the city. The Marina master plan is something that needs to be undertaken. We do have funding to be able to move forward with that, but again, seeking the most qualified firms to do that is the best recourse. And also, information technology services. I don't believe that has been solicited in quite some time, and as we know, technology changes faster than we can keep up. So these are the first 3. There likely will be many more other professional services that we'll look at in the future, but I think these are manageable to be able to start this process. And again, I'll be more than happy to share the framework of the request for qualifications proposals with you, and then we can have further discussion once those are received, if we want to have a committee to review or the action steps to move forward. But I just wanted to make sure again that there were no concerns, and you're all okay with this approach to start that process.
Yeah, do you need us to make a motion to authorize you to solicit?
It isn't necessary to do that unless you felt you really wanted to put it on the record. I think because there is a subsequent piece, I'm talking with Mr. Davis, there'll be an action item for each of these when it does
Sure.
come in front. So
Yeah.
that doesn't hurt, it's not
It's
necessary.
within the purview of your
Yeah,
job.
It's not necessary,
And
correct.
ironically, that's exactly how it's written.
This is starting the process.
This is starting the process, correct.
Nothing binding.
Okay.
Well,
Can I have a motion authorize City Manager Atkins to solicit requests for qualifications and cost proposals?
Yeah, sure. I make a motion that we authorize City Manager Atkins to solicit requests for qualifications and cost proposals
Support.
for engineering services, marina master plan and development, and information technologies. services.
Support.
Okay. And is that on a roll call?
No.
No. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. 11I, authorization to submit grant applications for the DNR Trust for beach restroom replacement.
Again, the next 3 items, 1, 2, and 3 are very similar. We have some grant opportunities that are available to us at this time. I'd like to request authorization to submit the grant applications for the DNR Trust Fund for the beach restroom replacement. That would be a submission that would take place in early 2024. That window isn't open yet, but we'd like to get started. We have applied for similar funding, as you all recall, in the past. Second item would be similar for the Michigan Lighthouse Assistance Program, and I provided some information for you, just the basis of the program. It may allow us an opportunity to get some funding. We have some maintenance needs for our lighthouse. That may be a little more of a struggle because there is some State Historic Preservation Office work that would have to be done. That's a November application. That particular grant, if I can back up first, the DNR Trust Fund has a cap of $350,000 max to apply for with a 25% match on that portion. The Lighthouse Assistance Program has a $60,000 maximum. We'd really be looking at about a $50,000 cost, which is a 50% match, so $25,000 of our cost. And then the last is the Michigan Community Center grant. This is very similar to the My Place Placemaking grant that was applied for 300 Broadway, which we do not yet have an answer from. No awards have been given. But this is actually a little better grant. It's a $2.5 million grant. It does not require a match. However, if we were to put forth a match, let's say a 10% match, $250,000, it helps us score. So again, we'd just like to get authorization. The individual applications as they come forth for the DNR Trust Fund and the Lighthouse Assistance Program would come back to you with those specifics prior to being submitted. Unfortunately, we are under the wire. We didn't receive early notification on the community center grant, and that is actually due on the 31st of this month. That again, we'd like to apply for and move forward with making that application for the $2.5 million with a $250,000 match. If we were fortunate enough to be able to be given the nod, it would still come back for formal acceptance and approval by this group. And I believe 300 Broadway Committee will be discussing this, but that meeting is only 3 days from the grant submission. It does not give us enough time for another commission meeting. So a lot of pieces there, but I don't want to miss an opportunity. We ultimately always have the final decision here with the commission to approve any conditional grant award.
Would we need to, like the prior grant, to submit, would we need to have that same proof of approval of funds and everything like that?
It
like we
doesn't
had to have
appear,
previously?
in this case, that we would have to.
Okay,
The Lighthouse grant may require a commitment, but.
that's got some time.
But that's different. We have time for that. But
Yeah,
the
I'm
community
talking-
center grant, because it really doesn't require any match, there's no funding commitment.
Okay.
Although, I think we would like to move ourselves up the scale if we could by at least identifying potential.
When we had identified 200 previously for that grant, I guess it's pretty likely that we would get one or the other, not both. So, not to mention that, I don't think that it needs $4.5 million. Not that the Friends of City Hall wouldn't love that, but nonetheless. I just wanted to make sure that there, like I said, 200 I think would be an obvious choice since the commission has already agreed to that. And again, this one is, like you mentioned, better because it does not forbid the city from utilizing it as a profit center to pay for itself. So this really is, if there could be a better grant, I couldn't think of it.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
No.
We likely have a better standing in this grant from also the basis of income levels of the community as a whole and other parameters that hit that target directly
Okay.
of what this grant is constructed for, so.
Lisa, Rita, do you have any concerns with this?
No.
Okay.
And again, I provided some
No, I think this is,
information.
again,
much
better.
better.
Yeah, it's a better one.
It's a better one,
It's a better one because it doesn't have those restrictions.
right.
Fully agree.
The lighthouse one, are you gonna do anything with the light, or what are the, what the restoration is?
Yeah, really, we most likely wouldn't qualify for some of the components of the light portion of the grant, but the maintenance portion, certainly painting, those type of things, sandblasting, painting, any concrete repair for the base, those things would be qualified, and that's what we'd be looking at. It's starting to show its wear and tear.
Well,
And-
I was in the municipality that the shipping channel, they asked us to turn down a light because it was shining out for them to see what's in front of them.
Yeah, this would
Even though
be,
they got radar.
yeah, this would be no light portion, this would be really maintenance-based to preserve the historic components of the structure.
Yeah, because I know a few years ago, they had to do a lot of bracing in the base because it was rotting so bad. So, yeah. Okay.
And you can see it's been cut. When it
They
was
were
moved-
welding.
When it was
Moved,
moved
yeah.
from Pesh Isle, yeah. It
Yeah,
was
well, the water had gotten all in there and it was rotting, so they were re-welding in there a few years ago to try
Oh
to
my
save
gosh.
all the braces inside, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that would be
Yeah.
Okay.
bad.
So do you need
We
anything?
need
or-
the vote or anything?
I would think on this one, we probably do similar to the last, just a motion to authorize.
Authorized to submit the grants for these 3 grants.
Yeah, do we need anything, again, anything special as it relates to the community center grant? I just want to make sure all i's are dotted and t's crossed.
I think just a clarification, if we're going to be looking at least pledging 200,000 or 250,000 on that. Again, match is not required. It does move us up the scoring criteria if we do. And we could match the same, Commissioner, you brought a good point. If we had $200,000 that we were pledging for the one, we're likely not getting both, or we would not accept both, we could
Right.
give the same amount.
Right.
Okay.
I think that we can make a caveat in that, well, what does the commission feel is appropriate? I mean, if 250 would up our chances,
Budgetary wise, are we?
Yeah, I mean, budgetary wise, I do believe that we're going to have some excess funds from some of the ARPA pieces that
Okay.
could qualify as an
All right.
economic development piece. Some of our costs have come in lower than what we
Okay.
had anticipated.
Then I'm okay with that, as long as it's covered.
Budget-wise, yeah. Okay.
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 I'll make a motion to allow the city manager to submit grant applications for the DNR Trust Fund, beach restoration, beach restroom replacement, Michigan Lighthouse Assistance Program, and Michigan Community Center grant with a matching amount of $250,000.
Support.
Motion and support, roll call vote, please.
Excuse me, sorry. Commissioner Hendrick,
Yep.
Commissioner Hilfreich,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Rourke,
Yes.
Commissioner Russ,
Yes.
Mayor Vandembosch,
Yes.
Commissioner Bryson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay. On to 12, administrative reports. The city attorney's report. No.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak on this issue. Just want to remind the commission that your charter creates an office of the city attorney to advise you. Any advice that I give you by memorandum or otherwise is privileged and confidential. I don't hold that privilege, you do as a body. If at any time, one or more of you want or believe that the information is beneficial to the public, which we've done, you've asked me on occasion to maybe rewrite the beginning of that advice and tailor it in a manner that would be acceptable to post. And we've done that. But until the privilege is waived by the commission, the release of my materials to you as a client are privileged, and you as a body hold the privilege, not any of you individually. And I just want to remind that the wrongful dissemination of privileged information that hasn't been approved by this commission is a very serious issue. Thank you.
City manager's report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Commissioners, I have just a few items for you. First of all, I want to let everyone know, including the public, that St. Clair County Health Department has issued a beach advisory. Due to the recent weather that we've had, there have been high levels of E. coli found at several beaches, which includes Marine City Beach. We have posted the advisory notice at the beach. It's also posted on our city website. There was testing that occurred today. There has to be a second round of testing to make sure that we're clear. However, we're a little concerned with, again, rain this afternoon and weather changes. We're not sure how soon we may be able to get the all clear, but when we do, that notice will be taken down at the beach. It will be taken off the city website. But right now, we are under health advisory due to elevated E. coli. Also, with all the heavy rains, we have an elevated risk of potential water issues for people that are recreating on the Bell River, the St. Clair River. Again, the water levels are high in the Bell River. Anybody that's been past it today alone can see there's a lot of debris that's floating through. That debris makes its way out into the big river, and sometimes you can't see it. So again, people on watercraft, people that are out, even fishing from the side, should be advised that the shorelines where there are no seawalls are also very unstable at this point. So I want to share that with everyone. Wanted to let the commission know that we are reinvigorating our redevelopment-ready communities work with the state of Michigan through the MEDC. That process started here about a year ago in earnest. Again, we're revising that, working again with the state of Michigan. There are some benefits, there are some potential grants that could come our way. We have been given a conditional nod of a grant to help assist us on our cost for our master plan, which could be potentially up to $25,000 of the cost. So we're working on, again, making sure that we are back on track and that we can try to utilize some grant funding. That'll also provide us some training points and some topics of discussion for the CED board and for the planning commission. We're looking at bringing some of the folks out from the MEDC, from economic development agencies, to kind of help us look at putting together some community marketing strategies, some community promotion items, and looking forward to maybe in partnership with other organizations, more promotion of Marine City, wayfinding, signage, those type of things. So I will keep you posted on that. It's great to be able to have some resources available to us. We want to tap into those resources and utilize this for our boards and committees. Speaking of master plan and those things, the last chance to participate in the Community Master Plan and Recreation Plan Survey is coming up within the next several days. If you haven't participated in giving us your input, please go to the city website. If you go to our city website, go to the tab called Public Notices, and there is a QR code that you simply can snap a picture of on your phone. It'll take you right to the survey, and we also have the link there in case you want to just copy and paste the link to your website. But we really want and desire to hear from our residents and visitors and business owners of what they want to see the future of Marine City as far as the master plan and the recreation plan are. And those plans are so important because they're the basis for grants for us many times in development. And the last thing I have is a reminder that the Battle of the Bands coming up this Friday and Saturday, downtown Nautical Mile Park, 7 to 11 p.m. Friday and Saturday night. So local bands, good cause, great time, come downtown. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
I have one question real quick. Would it be possible to post that QR code on the YouTube link for the meetings?
I'm not sure,
Or at least
but
a
we
link.
may be able to get it to CTV to see if they can put it on a slide
Yeah,
and be able to do it that way.
that might be good, or just the link to it, not QR code, but you can paste a text link in comments.
I'll
and-
double check. There may actually be a slide on CTV right now with that in the link,
Okay.
but I'll double check. Good idea, Commissioner. Thank
Just
you.
because a lot of people watch.
Yeah.
You know,
Excellent.
It's good.
Thank you.
I just had a couple questions. The apartments that are slated to go in just north of the courthouse there, it was 180 units. Wasn't that right? 180, not 240?
I believe originally there was discussion of 240, but their plans that were submitted for the Zoning Board of Appeals, I believe were 180.
And have we received any updates as far as their plans to resubmit those?
It's my understanding that they've contacted the building official, and they are looking to submit a site plan that would be in front of the Planning Commission. I don't know if they've submitted that yet, but that would be revisions based upon input from the public hearing at the Zoning Board of Appeals back in June. So there'll be a resubmission, and that'll be a public process when that
So
happens.
it sounds like relatively soon they're trying to get this going.
I would think, because they've had recent dialogue, that it is something they'd like to get on the agenda relatively soon.
All right. Any updates on the Washington Life Center property?
No updates at this point. I did have follow-up conversation with the school superintendent and the president of the school board, so they're aware that our formalized documentation will be going, and Mr. Davis and I have spoken to that effect, and it will be taken, my understanding, to the school board for future consideration.
So will we have a formal proposal in front of us to look at before that happens, or?
A letter of intent first. And again, in the school district, the board will decide whether they wish to pursue past that point.
Okay. That's it.
All right, 12C, reports from department heads. Any other additional reports?
The planning commission didn't have a meeting, we didn't have anything on it.
Oh, just one sec, Bill.
What?
It's still,
We're not in privilege.
Department head
We just want to make sure
reports.
department heads didn't have anything over here. Okay. Now on to 13, commissioner privilege and liaison reports. And Commissioner Clausen.
The planning commission didn't have a meeting because they didn't have anything on the agenda, but I haven't heard anything on on these apartments or whatever they're talking about down there. I'm familiar with it. I put the water line in 40 years ago. And I know what the problem is on M29 with the residual for fire protection. So I think there's a problem there, but we'll look into that when we do see a good set of prints and if they've got their testing done. So, and I do want to say that, well, that's it. It was, I'm done.
Okay, Commissioner Bryson.
I am quite honestly at a loss for words regarding our last meeting and just what happened during it. I truly don't know what else to say outside of what's already been stated in the censure, other than I will say that these releases of attorney-client privilege documents need to stop. They need to stop right now, and if they're out there, they need to be removed. This will do immeasurable harm to the city, and whoever's doing it is going to do immeasurable harm to themselves as well. So anyone who's putting any of these documents out there for the public, you need to take them down, stop, whatever you can do to mitigate the damage. So other than that, I have nothing.
Thank you. Commissioner Hillfrank.
Okay. So I'm going to reiterate a quote that I gave the last meeting by Robert Kennedy Jr. The First Amendment right to free speech wasn't written for speech that is popular. The First Amendment was written to protect speech that you aren't liked for. And, I'm fine with somebody in the audience calling me a douche for simply exercising my right to free speech and speaking up for the people. Because that's my job. That's my job up here, is to speak up for the people. And in relation to the comments by Rosalie, the public is pissed. And I have some of those same emotions. I wouldn't call it anger, but I do have a lot of the same emotions that the public does right now about information that is beneficial to the public not being shared with that public so that transparency and accountability can be promoted. And that is precisely what the Whistleblower Act protects, is information that has to do with laws or rules or procedures being broken within an institution. And by reading that investigation, that absolutely did happen, and nobody was held accountable for it at all. And since we already broke the privilege of closed session for the public's benefit, things in closed session aren't supposed to be discussed. They shouldn't be included in a resolution. They shouldn't be talked about at this table. They should stay in closed session. Unfortunately, that rule was not followed. But I will say, with that closed session, and specifically the one having to do with the performance evaluation of our city manager, it was extremely odd that his contract says he's to be evaluated every 6 months.
Commissioner Hellfrank, I'm going to ask that you not discuss the substance of the closed session from August 3rd. If you proceed.
It's already been discussed.
It has
It's already
not.
been discussed.
Actions. The substance has not been discussed, only you are discussing.
I'm not talking, there was no closed session substance, right? So anyways,
I'm going to ask that you not
the
discuss.
fact that there was no
I'm going
performance
to ask that you
evaluation.
not discuss the closed session.
I'm not discussing the closed session. The fact that there was no performance evaluation form in the packet for us, which is tradition in the past for any performance evaluation of a city manager, there's always been a form in the packet for us to fill out beforehand so that we actually can do that evaluation. That form was not in the packet or given to any of us, which was a pretty strong indication to me that this wasn't a performance evaluation at all. And what it did turn into was an attack on me. Now, I will close with, oh, and Bill, the fact that you didn't know about those apartments, I think that's a huge concern as well. I don't really know why we are just finding out about these apartments that have been in the works for what seems like almost a year now. But some information is being withheld from this commission and from the public, and that is absolutely a concern of mine as well. And I'll close with this quote by Theodore Roosevelt. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have been done better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error or shortcoming, but who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least he fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those that found themselves who never knew the victory nor defeat. That's it.
Okay. Commissioner Ross.
Okay, just to reiterate what City Manager Atkins had said, master plan survey. This is your chance to participate in democracy, and these are very important things to our city. We want your voice to be heard with the master plan. Please, please, please do the survey. It's 2 seconds, go to the website, click the link. It's right there. Made the request to put it on YouTube too. My wife promised that I would tell you that COVID is on the uptick, so just watch out for that. Sadly, it is. Next, and this is difficult and kind of sad. I get reached out to somewhat frequently, and it's been very frequent lately. Messages, texts, phone calls, emails, basically apologizing for one commissioner's actions, and to say that they are apologizing for voting for them, and then also have mentioned that they are actually fearful of coming to meetings and speaking out on their behavior because they're fearful of either online retaliation or personal retaliation. That, to me, is a pretty big problem. And when it gets to that level, to that point where I'm getting phone calls from people who are normally freely happy and able to stand at the podium and argue and say unkind things about me, that's okay. That's what this democracy is about. But when they come and tell me that they're fearful of coming because of one of the commission's actions, that's when it becomes a problem. So I thank you for your courage of at least reaching out to me. I thank you for your words and kind sentiments. And I thank you for participating in democracy and reaching out to commissioners who will listen. So thank you. Everybody stay safe. Avoid the beach for now. Stinks about the E. coli. But stay safe and have a great weekend.
Commissioner Rourke.
I'd like to thank the city manager and all the employees, new and old, for the great job they are doing. And thank you to all the volunteers and sponsors of Maritime Days. I heard and read a lot of great comments about the festival and the fireworks. And just to let you know, the Old Newsboys and Girls Christmas Craft Show is December 9th at the Perch Point Conservation Club. Tables are available at $40 each. You can check their Facebook page for more information. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Hendrick.
I'm gonna pass.
Mark it on the calendar.
That makes you worry about the next time.
So my privilege, while I agree and I want to keep repeating what several people have already said, I'd like to take my privilege to talk about I appreciate all of our city employees, and they do a fantastic job. But I would like to take this time to talk about city manager, Scott Atkins. In light of recent events, and we know of things that have been going on and being said and done, quite unfairly to you, we want you to know that the majority of this board supports the work that you are doing and appreciates you. We, and I'll present this to you after the meeting, we had put a letter together. Dear City Manager Atkins, we, the undersigned members of the City Commission, are submitting this letter to show our support for you and the work you have done as our city manager. You have shown exceptional knowledge and ability in all related areas needed for the position. We greatly appreciate your leadership and dedication to the city and all that you have done, and we're looking forward to seeing all of your future accomplishments in our city. And signed by myself, Commissioner Bryson, Commissioner Hendrick, Commissioner Clausen, Commissioner Rourke, and Commissioner Ross. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
And with that, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.